All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Intro to Bot Making. I'm Hank, and this is Ian. And today we're going to go through how to improve the bot that we've been working on for the last few lectures. So let's get started. All right. So here we have the robot that Andy was working on Tuesday. And we're going to go through and do some stuff to make this bot a little bit smarter. So I think on Tuesday, Andy explained that it's a good idea to sort of split your bot up into a few different files in order to make things more organized. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to work on the logic for carriers, and we're going to split that up into a different file. So let's do that. So carrier strategy.java. Okay, and let's get all the code that we have for carriers so far. Okay, so as you can see, there's a lot of errors in here right now, just because we have to import battlecode.common. And there's still a lot more errors, but it's okay because we're just going to throw out most of this stuff. Yeah. Okay. So I think a good first step would be to introduce sort of how we can store data in our bots, because I don't think we were doing that before. And obviously, it's very important to have some kind of state in your bot so that it can remember what it's done and sort of plan things out in a better way. So does anyone have any ideas of useful information that the bot might need to store, like the locations of something, or what might we need to do there? Nothing? That's okay. I'll start off. So one thing that might be important is the location of the headquarters, because the bot has to know where to return to drop off resources. So we'll do static app location, HQ location, and also the location of a well would be helpful, because that way we can go between the well and the headquarters. So we'll make well location. Okay. So now we need to have some way for our bot to actually scan for the headquarters and the well and remember where they are. So let's make some helper methods for that. It's always a good idea to split things up into other functions when you can, because that will make your code a lot cleaner. So let's make static, doesn't have to return anything, and we'll say scan headquarters. And we need to pass in robot controller, and always have to throw game action exception. Okay, so the headquarters is actually considered a robot itself, so we're going to have to loop through the robots to find the headquarters. So let's do that. Robots equals RC dot sense nearby robots. And then we'll loop through those. So we'll use the special for loop that makes things easier. So say robot info or robot info robot in robots if robot. So we're going to check if the headquarters is the correct team, and we're going to check if it's actually headquarters. So we'll say robot.getTeam equals, we'll get the team of this robot by saying rc.getTeam, and robot.getType type equals robot type dot headquarters. Okay, if that's true, then we know we found the headquarters. So we'll say headquarters location equals robot dot get location. And then we can break out of this for loop because we already found the headquarters. So that's good. Now, this should just happen basically as soon as the robot is created, because it'll immediately be next to a headquarters. And then it will call this method and know where the headquarters is for the rest of the game, which will be very helpful. So for wells, let's make a method for scanning for wells. We'll say static void scan wells. Do that. Okay. And here we'll get a list of wells that are near the robot. So well info wells is rc dot, and then we have a sense nearby wells method, I believe. Yep. Okay. And we could do some smart stuff with like checking which well is the closest or something like that, but in the interest of time, I'm just going to pick the first well that it finds. So we'll say if wells.length is greater than 0, then we'll say that well location is wells of 0. We need to do wells of 0 dot get map location. Okay, so now we have a method that finds the headquarters, and we have a method that finds wells. And now all we have to do is remember to call those methods up here. So we'll say if we don't currently know where the headquarters is, then we will scan to look for the headquarters. If headquarters location is equal to null, because in Java, when you don't set the variable to anything like this, it will start out having a null value. So if that's null, we'll scan for it. Same thing for wells. If well is null, then scan wells. Okay. So now let's see what other code we had in here before. So how about this block of code here? It looks like what this is doing is it's checking if we can collect resources from a well. And that looks all right. But we can probably make this code a little bit more concise by using some of the methods that we have in robot controller. So let's try to do that. So we'll say if, first of all, we want to check if the well location is not null, because if the well location is null, then we don't actually know where it is and we can't collect anything. So if it's not null and robot controller dot can collect resource from well location, and we can pass in a -1 here. It says in the documentation that if we pass in a -1, then it's checking for the maximum possible amount of resource that we can collect. So this is basically saying if we know where the well is and we're close enough to the well to collect from it, and the inventory is not full or anything else, then we can collect from the well. So we'll say rc dot collect resource well location and -1 for the maximum amount that we can collect. Okay, so let's maybe put in some comments here. Collect from well if we're not. Okay, so the high level strategy for our carrier is essentially going to be, unless it's carrying an anchor, it's just going to continuously go back and forth between this well location and between the headquarter location to get resources for the headquarters. So the next step here is we want to deposit the resources to the headquarters, which I believe was actually not included in the example bot, which is a little bit silly. Yeah, so let's do that. One thing we could do is we could basically, for each type of resource, just say if rc dot get resource amount, and then you have to specify the type of the resource. We could check like if we have that resource and then deposit that to the headquarter, and we'd essentially have the same code 3 times for each type of resource. But repeating code is generally not a good thing, as you may have learned in 6.101 or any other programming class. So instead of doing that, does anyone have any ideas on how we can make it like less repetitive? No one, not a single soul. Yes, we can make a method. That sounds like a good idea. So let's make a method that will check, let's say for a certain kind of resource. We'll say static void, we'll call it maybe deposit resource, robot controller, and we'll say resource type, and we have to throw game action exception. Okay, and then we'll say, we'll get the amount of the resource that we have equals c.get resource amount type. And then maybe if the amount is greater than 0, then if we are able to transfer the resource to the headquarters location, that type of resource and the amount that we found, then we are going to transfer the resource. Okay, that looks good to me. And so, yeah, I think we can really just call this method 3 times with each type of resource, and that should work perfectly. So let's say. Oh, sorry. Is it small? kind of hard to see it like that, but it's okay. Okay, so deposit resource. So we'll just do deposit resource. And we'll do adamantium. Oh no. Okay, here is where sometimes your IDE will get in the way and autocomplete some absolutely outrageous thing. I don't even know what even was that. I don't know. Anyway, Lana. Okay, I'm just going to leave Elixir out for now because we're not going to actually use Elixir with this bot because that's too advanced for us today. So yeah, just adamantium and mana is good. So now basically what our bot does is it scans for the location of headquarters in a well. And it also tries to deposit resources in the well and get resources from the headquarters. So does anyone have any questions about any of the stuff we've done so far? All good? Cool. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is implement some movement for our bot. Because right now it's not actually going to go back and forth between the well and the headquarters location. So right now we have this movement here, which kind of works, but it has this strange random check here, random chance to not move towards the well for no particular reason. And we also have no way to move towards the headquarters. So let's make that a little bit better. So I'm going to comment this out. And we sort of have two cases here in terms of what the robot might need to do. So one case is if the total amount of resources the robot's carrying 0, it's not carrying anything, then we want to look for a well in order to start collecting the resource. So let's maybe make a method to check if the robot is carrying or how much the robot is carrying in total so that we can see if it needs to go to a well or not. So I'll say the total resources. Sort of a boring method. It'll just, I guess, since we're not dealing with Elixir, we'll just do return get resource amount, adamantium, and we have an error here. Does anyone know why? Oh, I guess I already gave it away by double clicking on that. I don't know why I did that. Because this needs to return int. Okay. So now we can say int total equals get total resources. I suppose that didn't really need to be its own method, but it's nice to keep things clean. Okay. So now we have the total amount of resources, and we'll say if the total is 0. This is our first case where if the total is 0, we want to go look for a well so that we can pick up resources. So I'll write a comment. Does anyone have any suggestions on how we should structure the code that goes here? Tough crowd. Yeah. Yes, that is a good idea. So we can try moving in the direction of the well. So we'll say if dot can move, and then we'll say we can get our location, and then we can use the direction to method, and then we'll pass in the well location. Let's maybe make this a little bit cleaner by adding some other variables here. So we'll say map location, me for my location equals rc dot get location, and then why does it not like this? I already used that. Here, we'll just comment this out because we don't need it. Okay, and we'll say okay, if we can move in this direction, then move in this direction. Okay, this looks pretty innocent as it is, but does anyone have any ideas of what could possibly go wrong with this code here? Because there is a very small issue. Yes, that's one issue. I think we're going to get to that a little bit later. There's one other, I guess, smaller thing that I was thinking of. Yeah. Yeah, so that's definitely an issue we could run into that we'll solve. One other little thing that's wrong is if the well location is still null, like we haven't found where the well is yet because we're just wandering around, then this will throw some kind of error. So I'm just going to add that in. If it's not equal to null, then we'll do this. Otherwise, we're going to move in a random direction. So I could just write that code here, but I think that code is going to be generally useful later on because it might also be used by other robots. So instead, I'm going to make a method in robot player, and I'm going to have it so that all of these can access that one method so we don't have duplicated code. So let's do that here. We'll say static void move random. Okay, and then we already have this useful array of directions here that comes with the starter code. So we'll just use a random number generator to pick one of those directions and move in that direction. So we'll say direction equals directions of get a random number. And the length of directions is 8. So you could just type 8, or you could type directions.length, which I think is better practice to not have magic numbers in your code. So then we'll say if and move direction, then move and direction. Okay, that is red because we need the throws game action exception. It's very annoying. Okay. So we have that. Let's see, how am I doing on time? Okay. So if the location is not null, or if it is null, it'll be in this else block here. And so we're going to just wander around until we find a well. So we'll say we made that method in robot player. So we have to start with robot player dot move random and then robot controller. And I'm actually going to add one other little thing here. We don't need to move to look for the well if we're already right next to the well, because that way we can collect the resource. So I'm just going to add a check else if the robot is not already adjacent to the well. So we'll do that by saying not get location is adjacent, and then well location. Yes. So that should work. Oh, okay. Actually, no. I think I'm getting confused. This would not work because it would be null at this point. I'm just going to leave it like this for now. That should be all right. Okay. So that's the case if we have no resources. We have another case where if the robot is full, then it needs to start moving back towards the headquarters so that it can drop off the resources. So let's work on that now. Let's say if total is equal to, and then there's a constant that tells us what the carrier capacity is. Game constants dot carrier capacity. Then move towards the headquarters. So we'll check if we're already adjacent to the headquarters by doing if get location dot is adjacent to the headquarters. If it's not adjacent to the headquarters, then we will move in the direction to headquarters. Okay, that looks like it should work. So I'm sure I've forgotten some stuff in here, and when we try this for the first time, it's going to go horribly wrong. But does anyone have any questions about what we've done so far, what this robot does or how it works? All right, cool. So it's time to attempt running this. Well, before I do that, I'm going to delete a bunch of this extra code because it still has errors in it. Let's get rid of that, and this, and all of this. This is just stuff from the other lecture player that we've essentially replaced with the logic we added here. Okay, that looks good. And we also have an error here, and that is because we refactored it so that we have the other file. So I just need to change this so that it accesses the other file. So we'll say carrier strategy run carrier. And that looks good. Okay, before I try running it, does anyone think they already have any ideas of anything that's going to go wrong? Did anyone notice anything wrong with it? I'm legitimately asking. I have no idea. Okay, we'll see. Well, it seems the Zoom thing is blocking the button to open the terminal.
You go to a more thing that we bar.
Thank you.
Floating the
Oh, almost ended the meeting. Where?
type floating
Yes, thank you. I never knew how to do that. I always just suffer with that stupid bar on the screen. Okay. So in order to run the bot, we're going to do /gradle w run. Let's see what happens. It's taking a long time. We can see there's a new Battlecode version. If you ever see that, you should definitely go and update your Battlecode version because we make balance changes all the time. The only reason I'm not doing that is because I tested all this before lecture and it was working, and I'm afraid that if I updated it, it would break something that I planned. So yeah, that's why. But you should update it. Okay. So it looks like it worked. So let's go. Not there. Where did it go? Go to the clients and run this match. Okay, is that the right one? That one. Okay, so let's see how our bot did. Just press the run button and absolutely nothing is happening. Now, why is that? Oh, there we go. Okay. So it looks like there is some kind of issue here. This robot, I think once it is, okay, is it going back to the headquarters? No, it's not going back to the headquarters. It just seems to be wandering around. Okay, something has happened here. Let's see if we can figure out what it was. I believe it's in the logic right here. If I can't figure it out, I have reference code to look at. Okay, so I think here we should be checking if we're already adjacent to the well, and if so, then we should not move. So we'll say if not adjacent to the well location, and okay, hopefully that should fix it. Let's see. I'm also going to change to a different map because I don't particularly like that map. You can do that using the command with adding the map to the command, but I'm just going to do it by changing Gradle.properties. So you can change this here. I'm going to change it to this other map. Oh, it is? You can't do this anymore?
No, but it's default to default map.
Okay. Also, it's a very good thing that I just checked in this file. A very good thing, because I realized that I wasn't even running the bot that I just made. I was running some other random bot. So this should be example one player 3. Yeah. So, but I think the thing that I fixed actually was a problem. Okay. So let's try running it again. Okay, this is bad, but it should be easy enough to solve. So let's see. Cannot move to an occupied location. Okay, we just need to check if we can move. Okay, let's try it again. Okay. Now let's see if that worked out better that time. Okay, so as we can see, there's now a lot more going on, which is a good thing. But we do have a little bit of an issue here. And it seems like some of our carriers are just kind of sitting here doing absolutely nothing. So does anyone have any ideas about what might be causing them to do that? Why are they just sitting there? We told them to go between the headquarters and the wells. Yeah? Yeah, so I think that's part of it. Although also, well, maybe I'm not sure, but I think another issue might be that they're trying to move towards a location and the direction that they're trying to go is blocked, so they just can't go that way. And they just end up sitting there doing nothing. So let's see if we can try to fix that. So let's pause this. Okay, in order to make this a little bit cleaner, let's try refactoring it so that we have a different method in robot player that will move towards the location, but also if it can't move towards the location, then it will just move in a random direction. And that way, it's not as good as like proper path finding for figuring out how to get around walls and stuff. It'll just sort of go in a random direction if it finds that it can't get somewhere, which is not super efficient, but it should eventually work out. So we'll say, make a method called move towards, and it will have a location, and we need to throw game action exception. Okay, so we'll say direction. This is the direction that we want to move in, direction. And then we'll say we can move in that direction, and we'll move in that direction towards the thing. Otherwise, we'll just move in a random direction, which we already have a useful method for. So just move random. There we go. And then we'll call that method from our carrier strategy. So here, instead of this crazy long line of code, we'll just say robot player dot robot player dot move towards the headquarter location. Of course, well, the headquarter location should never be null because we spawn right next to the headquarters, so I think this should work as is. And then here, we're going to move towards the well location, so we'll say, instead of all this, just say it's not adjacent to a well, then we will move towards the well location. Oops. There we go. Okay, I think this looks good to me. Does anyone see any issues with it? Does it seem good? Does it make sense? All right, let's try running it again. Got lots of stuff going on, which is a good sign. It's probably making lots and lots of robots. Let's see what it looks like. So yep, the robots are now moving back and forth between the wells and the headquarters. See, this one's going a really long way. It drops it off, goes over there, drops it off. This looks good to me. Speed it up a little bit. And eventually it seems like blue completely wipes out red because red just got unlucky, I guess. even the exact same robot versus itself, particularly if it's a robot that doesn't have a very good strategy like this one. Sometimes luck just makes one robot win. So let's move on now to placing anchors on the islands. Because right now we can win the game through a tiebreaker with having more resources, but that's not really the object of the game. So let's try to work on that. So does anyone have any high level ideas on where we should go with collecting and placing anchors? Yeah,
Yes, the headquarters of Oregon building, first up is the kickoff.
yes, that's a good idea. So let's just add a check here to see if we're able to pick up an anchor. So we'll say if we have a method for that, robot controller dot can take anchor, the headquarter location. And for now, we'll just use standard anchors. And if it can take the anchor, then we'll take the anchor. Okay. And I'm also going to make a variable here to track if we currently have an anchor and we're in anchor drop-off mode, or if we're in like wandering around mode. So I'll say Boolean anchor mode equals false to start with. And then it's going to become true here if we pick up an anchor. Oh, forgot the static. Okay. So after we picked up the anchor, we're going to need to bring it towards an island. But in order to know where an island is, we'll use something similar to how we dealt with the headquarters and wells. So let's add that in. We'll add in a map location to keep track of where an island is. So island location, and then we'll make a similar method here that scans for island locations. So let's do that. Okay, so to get a list of islands, we use island info equals sense nearby island locations. Sense nearby islands, this one. And sorry, my bad. This is actually just an int array, because what this method does is it returns a list of the IDs of all the islands that are close to the robot. And then we use that to find the actual locations. So we'll say IDs or int ID. We'll loop through all of the island IDs that we found. And now we're going to check if the island is actually a neutral island that we can place an anchor on. So we'll say if rc.sense team occupying island is equal to the neutral team, team.neutral. Then we're going to loop through all the locations that are a part of this island. So in order to do that, we will make an application array, and we'll say sense nearby island locations, and then the ID. And then we'll loop through these locations and find the one that's closest. Although, now that I think about it, I don't think you need to see me writing all the code just to find which one is closest. So I think I'm just gonna do the same thing I did before and be lazy and pick the first location that it has. So we'll say if there is more than one location, then we'll just set the island location to that. Locations of 0. And then if we found one, we'll just break. And I think that's good enough. Okay, so we also need to make some changes to our movement here, so that basically if we're in anchor mode, then we want to look for an island and try to place the anchor rather than just aimlessly wandering around. So let's say if we're in anchor mode, else do the rest of this stuff. If we're in anchor mode, so if the island location, we're going to do a similar pattern to what we did before. If the island location is null, then we'll just wander around. Just say robot player dot move random. Otherwise, if we know what the location is, then we will move towards that location. So robot player dot move towards, and then island location. Okay. Let's see. Now we also need to check if we're able to place the anchor, and if we're able to place it, then let's do that. So we'll say if robot controller dot. First, let's check if the well location is null or not, the island location. So if island location is not null, or actually we can just check, we can place an anchor at the current location, and that should work. So we'll say if robot controller dot and place anchor, then place anchor. Okay. That looks like it should be good to me. I'm sure something's going to go wrong that we'll have to figure out, but let's try it. Okay, the winning team won by having more sky islands. That's great. I'm very excited to see that because it means that it actually semi worked somewhat. Hopefully. Okay, let's run it and see what happens. So it looks like red team's got an island. Blue team's got an island. Oh, blue team accidentally captured that island. That's something else that we should maybe implement, is scanning where enemy islands are and purposely capturing them, but it looks like red team just got completely lucky here. Or blue team got completely lucky. And yeah, we don't have to watch through the entire game, but as we can see, whenever the headquarter makes an anchor, a carrier picks it up and takes an island. It seems like it's working as intended. So I had some other ideas on how to optimize this, but it's already 7:45 and we also have to get through launchers. So I think I'm going to end it there for carriers. Does anyone have any questions about how we did any of that? All right, cool. So I'm going to turn it over to Ian for launchers.
What? Oh, if you guys want to get peeks of, I'll get started. You guys can come up to the front, I guess. Also, if anyone has any requests for something that I can try implementing, we can say them. If it sounds reasonable, I can try coding it on the spot. If anyone has any requests. Yeah.
Yeah, something I think is interesting is like the responding strategy or like formation to like.
Yeah.
different sizes.
We were gonna talk about like making a formation or like at least following like a leader in a future lecture, but that's definitely something that we're gonna be on the lookout for.
You know, like massive large group or.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna do in like a future lecture. But like, great idea, definitely something to keep in mind. If you can try implementing that on your own. Anyone else have any ideas? Are there any ideas in chat? Okay, so then I'm just gonna implement what I originally had in mind, which is launcher strategy. I don't know if any of you guys have like run this code or like run your own launcher code, but something that like occasionally happens and is super annoying is your launcher attacks someone and then they switch to a different target immediately after. So something that would be nice is just like having a launcher repeatedly target the same thing. And what would be even better is if all of our launchers targeted the same robot so that we can just like focus an enemy down and kill it. So what we're going to do is we already have like this functionality to sense nearby enemies and we just pick the first one to attack. So what are some like criteria we could look at to decide what's the best enemy to attack? Anyone have any ideas? Like, should we attack the one that's like the highest health? Should we focus on attacking carriers only? Anything like that? Lowest health. I like lowest health. Okay. So then we're just gonna do like ints lowest health. And then we're gonna initialize it to like integer that max value. So that it's gonna get like instantly overridden by the first robot we see. Yeah,
Maybe integer not max value, so
it's definitely overkill, but I like it.
I guess this is more technical question. but
Yeah.
Would this be more expensive by code wise if you say like 100?
I don't believe it's more expensive bytecode wise, but I'm personally not familiar with bytecode. Is anyone familiar with bytecode here? Okay, if we want to be safe, we can just do like 100. I believe nothing's greater than 100. And then we should have like a criteria for like tiebreakers. So if two robots have the same health, then one way we can like decide which one to attack is whichever one's closer. Because that's the one that poses like the most immediate threat to us. So we can say like in smallest distance, and we can also make it 100. So now, if we find an enemy, we're gonna loop through every robot we find and enemies, and let's just get their health. So int enemy health equals enemy the health, and int enemy distance equals enemy that get location, the distance squared to, and our location, which I'll just get right now. So now the primary thing we're going to look at is on something you also need to keep track of is our target. Robot info target equals null. So we need to keep track of which robot is like the best one for us to attack. So if enemy health is less than our lowest health, that means we found like a new robot that has the least amount of health. Then we're going to set our target to be the enemy. And we're just going to update lowest health and smallest distance. Lowest health equals enemy health, and smallest distance equals enemy distance. Otherwise, if we have a tie in terms of health, then we check if the distance is smaller. So if enemy distance is the smallest distance, we also set the target equal to enemy and smallest distance to enemy distance. Okay. Did I do something like incredibly wrong? Does that look okay? I'm gonna take silence as it looks okay. Okay. And now, once we've like gone through every enemy, if target is not null. So if it is null, that means we didn't find any robots to attack. So if it's not null, we did find a robot. And if we can attack it, we should attack it. Let's see the attack. Target identification. Does anyone have any ideas of what we should do if we don't find any robots? If we have like no enemies in sight, what's the nice thing to do? Yeah, sure. That's definitely like one idea, and I guess I can implement it. One thing I would be concerned about with that is if you have your launchers and your carriers both moving towards or well, you might like clog up the area. But we can try it and we can see what it looks like. So we can say like well info, wells, rc.sense, wells, rc.sense nearby. Wait, okay. What does this return? That is a great question. Why is that giving me an error? Does anybody know why this is giving me an error? Like,
Are you already importing? Oh,
oh, yeah, okay. I don't know who did this, but I don't like them. And I should also actually use a semicolon. Why is this giving me an issue now? Hello? Oh, okay, okay. Thank you. Now we're good. So if we do find any roles, then let's just find the location of the first one. Well, location. Equals well sub 0. I get map location. And if we can move towards it, we'll obviously have the direction to be in the RNC that get RNC that get location, the directions here. Oh. So if we can move in the direction of a well, let's move in the direction of a well. Okay. Other ideas I had for like things you could do if you don't see any robots is one, you can just do the default move in a random direction. Another thing you can do is just like move in the opposite direction of your headquarters. And so like generally that might be like on the enemy side of the map, which is like a good thing to go towards. So you can just like find like your headquarters location and calculate like the inverse location and just go towards that. That might be an idea. But let's just see how going towards a well looks like. Hopefully we don't get any errors. Okay. Everything ran, which is a very good sign. Wait, do you have the client open?
Yeah.
Still a lot. Right, right, crazy, I don't see it.
There it is.
Okay, there you go. Excuse the technical difficulties. And then should be this one. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So now hopefully, well, I'll speed it up a bit. Hopefully our launchers should be more efficient now. Okay, well, we just had one launcher. We have launchers just going into the enemy team and suiciding. Maybe, but it looks like it is right that launchers are like choosing one carrier to focus down and they just like keep attacking that one. I don't know if you guys saw that on the top left, but you can see that they're like choosing a specific carrier and then they attack it once and then they keep repeatedly attacking it to make sure it dies. And I'll speed it up a bit. And it looks like, okay, besides like the clogging of robots in the bottom right, Blue is doing a good job of just having like launchers go into like the top left of the map and just like annoying the red team. And you definitely see that like a lot of the carriers are being like killed down by the launchers. So let me just finish this. And the end result is Blue ends up winning the match. Okay. Does anyone have anything else they want me to try implementing aside from an information thing? Okay. If not, we can just like end the lecture here and like you can start working on your robots or like continue working on them. And if you have any issues, come down to the front. Otherwise, thank you guys for coming. Come back tomorrow. We're gonna have something that's not pizza this time. I hope. Okay, thank you guys. Wait, how do I end
This
this?
is the, oh, go to the top right, green icon. And then on the
Are you
top
trying to
right,
dox me right
uh,
now?
Oh, wait, am I doxing you?
No.
icon on the top bar,
On the top bar?
of like the very top. of the-
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there should be an unlight. Light streaming, I see.
What if I just end the meeting?
That should do.